there, Christian here, and here is the only memories video from the 2020 season, and it's going to be Pennsylvania Steam Memories. And this pretty much encompasses all of my adventures in 2020 in the state of Pennsylvania, from the Strasbourg Railroad, which is pretty much where 80% of it was from, the Reading and Northern, and New Hope and Ivyland Railroad. Actually, if you really want to get technical, probably about 85% of it, with 10% at Reading and Northern and 5% at New Hope. But anyhow, who really cares about the exact percentages? So let's begin. You've heard me say multiple different times, 2020 was not the year any of us expected, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to keep repeating it. You definitely know the drill by now. So in 2020, the only adventure that went according to plan was the Conway Scenic 7470 Steam in the Snow event. Now in June, when things started reopening again, the first place I went to was the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is my favorite railroad museum in the country. I got to see the 4501, and that was my first steam chase since January, and it definitely got that necessary steam fix that I had been craving. Because pretty much from Steam in the Snow to 4501, I was pretty much just shooting mainline stuff. I chased Buffalo and Pittsburgh, and yeah, you know me. Steam is the main reason this channel exists. I am not going to lie. I'm pretty sure it's obvious. I definitely appreciate steam locomotives over diesels any day of the week, but I could definitely appreciate diesel locomotives. So after the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum, there was one other railroad I knew that was going to be opening once the county would get the go-ahead in Pennsylvania. And that was the Strasburg Railroad. And obviously that's closer than the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum. The first two times I had an opportunity to go down there, we were moving out of my childhood home. The first weekend, anxiety kicked up and everything else, and I decided to skip it. The second weekend, we had definitely completed 80% of the move, but I decided last minute I wanted to stay in town that weekend to celebrate one of the last holidays I could in my childhood house, even though pretty much at that point it wasn't ours. So the third weekend, I wasn't really planning on going there because I had other plans, but when the opportunity really opened up, I decided I wanted to go back down there. I knew my favorite locomotive there was running. I had ideas for shots I wanted to get with it, and obviously skipping the 2 weekends beforehand, I just wanted to go, and that was the second weekend in July. And that was a video entitled Norfolk and Western 475, Twilight of the Norfolk and Western. And hands down, that was my favorite video from Strasburg last year. That, hands down, was my favorite chase of the 475. I feel I got some of the most unique angles of the 475 during that chase. I also have permission to be on quite a few different pieces of land there while I filmed there that day. And that's something I, honest to God, want to put out there. Before you go shooting at places like the Long Curve, the bridge, or any private property there, please make sure you have permission from the landowners before you go walk down there. And I just got so many great shots that day. I loved my shot at Byler's. I loved the bridge shot of the 475 that day. And I absolutely loved the angles I got at Cherry Crest, Red Caboose Motel, Carpenter's. The whole chase was just fantastic, and I couldn't have asked for better lighting. And yes, I do say that while the lighting was weird for a little bit, it was pretty much sunny and my shots turned out great. So with that being said, that chase was a success. But I also found out after I went there that that was going to be the first weekend of the Hands on the Throttle event that Strasburg was offering with all three of its engines, 89, 90, and 475, and at a later time I believe they also offered throttle time with the Plymouth and the Doodlebug. I'm not 100% sure about that, and I apologize if I'm wrong. I got up early, and I mean early, to shoot the 89, and basically there really wasn't a whole lot of shots to get of it on the Hands on the Throttle session. I don't even really consider that really a chase. It was just a decent video of 89, and I actually, up until this past January, from a few weeks ago, never really got a solo video of 89. So that being said, when I went on that chase, my mentality, due to a few different personal reasons, due to everything being as crazy as what it was in 2020, that was really when the pandemic started surging again. I decided to call it off for a little bit. I decided we were going to take a break from the channel, and when Chris was involved, we decided to record this goodbye video. That being said, after we recorded that goodbye video, the Reading and Northern announced that the 425 was going to be pulling excursions in the Lehigh Gorge. And I knew I wanted to go and shoot that before I partially went to a hiatus that I hyped up I was going into. And the first weekend it ran, I had vacation time and everything for it, and due to a few different personal reasons, I decided to cancel on it. And then due to those same personal reasons, when it was announced the weekend afterwards, I decided to go and chase it. Now let me point out something. If there was one thing that I did not expect to make a comeback in 2020, in fact, I didn't expect it to make a comeback at all, was the Lehigh Gorge Scenic Railway. If you know anything, it closed in 2019 due to disputes over taxes and all that other fun stuff, and I'm not really going to go into that in this video because there are many other articles that you pretty much can find your information on. The first weekend I was there was the video Reading and Northern 425 Thunder in the Lehigh Gorge. Now I had shot portions of the Lehigh Gorge before through the mountaintop chase in 2019. I had an idea of where I wanted to go. There were shots I really wanted, and I just hands down didn't realize just how beautiful the Lehigh Gorge was. And it's definitely a place I actually want to go back and hike without chasing the steam train. Or chasing a train in general. I just would love to go bike riding through it. I'd love to go on the biking trail, and I'd just love to hike that thing for a Saturday. Seriously, it is a beautiful, beautiful venue. My first video, the 425, wore its signature Reading 6 chime, which sounded great because I hadn't heard it in over 2 years. And day one, I will admit, I definitely got more of a variety of shots, even though I pretty much stayed within the beginning axis of the Lehigh Gorge at the Glen Oco spot. Day two, I pretty much stayed around the station, and I got shots that I haven't gotten before of the 425. Let me put it to you this way. I always wanted to get a shot of 425 departing the station because I am absolutely a station fan. If you have not been able to tell by my videos yet, I love framing steam engines, and I love even framing modern trains with stations. That's just something I absolutely love to do. That being said, I knew that weekend I obviously wanted to go back and get more video and pictures. Now, I originally thought I was going to be able to combine both videos into one, but I really should have taken a look at how much footage I got. The following weekend, I decided to go back down to Strasburg because I heard 475 was running. I wanted another 475 video, and I also heard the 90 was going to be hosting the Hands on the Throttle session that weekend. So for me, it was a bonus because I had really been wanting to chase 90. In fact, I was planning earlier in August before my hiatus to go chase the 90. So I will be real, the 475, the last days of summer video, day one was great. Day two, my shots weren't as, it was definitely decent, but I kind of feel it fell apart in comparison to the Twilight of the Norfolk and Western Steam. And I don't know if that's because of the fact that, to me, it seemed like they put on a better show for the Twilight of the Norfolk and Western Steam. I don't know. I just know that I personally liked that video better, and day two kind of fell apart. But I will say in this video, the most notable aspect was the torrential downpour we got. That Saturday was supposed to be absolute shit, but we actually lucked out in Strasburg. It had rained a little bit beforehand, but that torrential downpour we saw coming in when I was setting up for the cemetery shot, and then it came down after the 475 passed. I grabbed my umbrella, somehow beat them to the Red Caboose Motel, and that is where I got that shot, which I think is one of my favorite shots of the 475, returning to Strasburg literally in one of the craziest downpours I've ever shot a train through. The only other one that beats that is the Iowa Interstate 6988 during the Chillicothe excursions in 2019. Seeing 90 though was great the next day. And I basically did the same thing as 89, except this time I got a few more shots of 90 down there, and I had permission again to be in the places I shot at for that video. So that being said, I knew the next weekend, and almost kind of a 2019-2018 flashback. I was out of town for 3 weekends. I knew I was going back to the Lehigh Gorge. And it was that weekend I remember running into everyone at the Lehigh Gorge. And that weekend, 425 wore multiple whistles. I got a cab ride that weekend. I rode in the open air coach. That was one of my only 2 train rides in 2020, mainly obviously due to world situations. But hands down, that was my favorite weekend in the Gorge. That was my favorite video from the Gorge. The thing I absolutely loved about that weekend was, even though she didn't have her signature Reading 6 chime on, they had a variety of different whistles. And for some reason, I seem to have the luck of always going to see 425 when she has 3 chimes. None of her other beautiful 6 or 5 chimes in her collection. I mean, I've gotten lucky once or twice, but just throwing that out there. She wore a Southern 3 chime. She wore a B&O Turner Top 3 chime. She wore my favorite that weekend, a Southern PS4 whistle, and then she wore a UP Star Brash 3 chime. Hiking into many different spots in the Gorge, getting a unique angle at Old Penn Haven. I feel I got some unique shots that time, and there's a few shots I definitely want to redo, and at some point I hope the 425 definitely does run in the Lehigh Gorge again. And I really wasn't expecting to see one of my top 5 favorite steam locomotives in 2020. I mean, definitely with all the craziness in the world, it was definitely a welcoming. It was also because of 425 that gave me that push that pretty much led to the good content that was shot last fall. At that point, I'd only been to Strasburg twice that year. I knew I needed to return. I knew I needed to go back there. And about 2 weekends after that, after literally the worst week in my entire life, I went and I saw the Strasburg 90 the Great Western Way. I'm going to break into this just a little bit. Now, I got into a toxic situation that lasted for 6 years, and I'm not going to go into the full thing. It was a two-way street. It was my fault for letting myself get into that situation. But the way how it all ended was, it was basically with an organization that I belonged to, that I still do belong to. I just didn't like the way how it ended. I was very disappointed in people I thought were friends, and everything else pretty much just fell apart that week. So I already had planning before that, but I wasn't expecting that week to be as brutal as what it was. Trying to get shots that I had gotten of the 475 with the 90 for this video, again getting permission before going onto said property to get some of those shots. My buddy Railfan Tommy joined me on Saturday, and I really had perfect light that entire weekend. That was probably the best light I've had at Strasburg, chase-wise, ever. The sun was just perfect the entire time. I got many different unique shots of the 90, and let's be real, the 90 is a neat engine. It was the other engine that I grew up with in All About Fast Moving Trains, and it was just a fantastic video, and the weekend I needed to get shit off my mind. The second weekend in October, because Railfan Tommy talked me into it, and because of the fact seeing other videos that really looked cool, I decided to go chase the 2020 version of A Day Out with Thomas at the Strasbourg Railroad. They completely redid it this year to have Thomas give a full ride from the Strasburg station all the way down to Lemon Place Junction and back to Strasburg again. Now, I was not really expecting the crowds out with Thomas like I was, because of the fact this was the 4th one, I think, of the year, but oh my God, the amount of people that really came out to see that blue little tank engine. And the stack talk on that thing definitely rivals another blue engine in Pennsylvania, which I sometimes will make jokes too that it is Gordon. I once again aimed for the shots that I usually love getting at Strasburg. I tried to get different shots. I tried to make it as unique as possible, and I think the result really paid off with the Thomas video. At the same time I shot the Thomas video, I shot the 475 again. Now at that point I was just at straws trying to get shots of the 475, trying to figure out where to go to get shots. And I think I definitely did a good job. It was pretty much overcast the entire weekend, with maybe really only 1 or 2 times that day where the sun came out. For the first video, 475 from October, I definitely was grabbing at straws for different angles, but I think I pulled it off. And again, it was a good video in my opinion, but the last shot from that video was my favorite. I had never seen anyone else try to get that shot from Esmond Shade, framing the cut and the farms in the background, but hands down, I think the shot timed out well. Also wanted to point out that that first video from October of the 475, one of the shots from that video that is great for me is the fact that when I decided to get that low angle shot that I was inspired by Railfan Tommy to get, that was the fastest I've ever seen an engine go through Groff's Grove. Now the weekend afterwards was the only photography charter I actually attended in 2020. And that was one that I had been looking forward to since spring, and that was the Strasburg Railroad Steam Strikes Back charter. Now, I attended episodes 2, 3, and the final show. I did not attend episode 1 because that was a night session on Friday, but I did attend 2, 3, and the final show. Put on by the Strasburg Railroad, Christopher Pollock, and Laro Productions. It definitely wasn't the best charter I've ever been on, but to see 90 painted back in the egg logo really made it. Obviously, when you've shot Strasburg kind of as much as what I did over the years, there wasn't really, truthfully, anything new for the charter, other than a few different angles, which were actually unique to get. But in case you're curious, as I was shooting this video yesterday, which was the day before today, a bunch of kids decided to show up, and you know, kids are kids and loud at where I was recording it at. So this is probably going to overlap a little bit with what I was saying yesterday, so if I do include any of this part of the video, you'll see why. So while 89 was not backdated to its 70s, or really up to 2004 appearance at all. It was kept in its Strasburg historical appearance. The 90 was pretty much the main star of the show because of the fact that it was back to its infamous 1967 egg logo appearance, and the 90 looked great. Now this photo chart was definitely good, but it definitely was not one of my favorites. This was the only trilogy of videos made from 2020, and I also said too, flat out, that this was one of my favorite videos shot from last year, but compared to all the other charters I went on, it was good, but it definitely wasn't my favorite. I mean, really, the whole draw of the charter was the fact that 90, again, was backdated to her egg logo appearance. The cool thing on Saturday was all three of Strasburg's main engines were fired up. The only other time I saw this was at the private photo charter I attended last year. I mean, you had 89 in the morning on a freight consist, 90 with a few passenger coaches, and then in the afternoon, 90 had the freight consist, and 89 had the passenger consist. 89 was really just basically there. Like, sometimes even I have to sit back and realize, 89 was there on Saturday. 475 made more of an appearance than 89. So if you attended the 611 charter, it felt like we weren't on such a tight time frame, which, you know, again, I don't really know what goes into the planning of these, and all parties that were involved with the Steam Strikes Back charter did a fantastic job, but it just seemed to me that this year it was tighter. Like, granted, it was only advertised from 6 to 11, noon to 4, but I mean with 6:11 I believe was only advertised till about 5 as well too, but we stayed out on the line a lot longer. Granted, I'm not at all complaining. I'm very appreciative of the fact that it happened, but the afternoon session on Saturday felt very tight, with Cherry Crest Adventure being open. Obviously no run-bys were done there except at Groff's Grove. It just felt like we had a tighter amount of time on the line, and I'm not complaining because it was a great time by all, and it was the only photography charter I attended in 2020. The Sunday morning session, I did it because I would get different shots than what I would have gotten on Saturday, and that was my main goal on Saturday, and I achieved it. We only had 3 run-by locations. The thing that was great about Sunday was the fact that 90 pulled these regular Strasburg passenger consist. Yes, 90 pulled all 9 coaches of the passenger consist. That's what was fantastic about it, and I feel 90 even had a little bit more of a bark than the afternoon sessions from the day previous. That being said, the morning session went very quick, and it was awesome to see the one and only time in the 21st century the 90 has donned the egg logo. I definitely hope Strasburg does it again. I thought it was cool. The railroad has no obligation to do it. They're legit one of the only railroads in the country that operates steam so regularly, and I'm definitely very appreciative of all that they have done over the past 60 years. But I mean, hey, it definitely would be cool to see the egg logo again. That being said, the other video that was shot during that was pretty much shot from day 1, so it kind of technically was a compilation, but then on day 2, I did not include it at all in the 90 footage because I wanted to keep the morning session separate, and that was the 475. Now this year, I will say, beforehand, it always seemed to me that my schedule never lined up with when Strasburg was operating the 475, which is why in 2018, when the opportunity arose and I knew that was going to be my only opportunity to see 475 before 1472 day, I jumped on it. I had no idea really at that point I would see 475 as much as what I did in 2019 and as much as what I did in 2020, and I'm not complaining. So with that being said, this last video, I was really grasping for straws for shots I wanted to do. I wanted to emphasize on the golden hour. Because the lighting was hazy during the last days of summer, I wanted to get that perfect 475 in gold light hour. Not only did I succeed on it, I found a different vantage point of the long curve, and I also was able to beat them to the Red Caboose Motel, and hands down, I got one of my favorite shots of 475 in the perfect golden hour light, and I can't complain at all. And the next day, like I said, I was just grasping for straws, and I think I really only found one new location to get the 475 at, but I just tried unique angles, and I think the video came out kind of weak. I'm not gonna lie, because there were a lot of tender first shots, and then, not that I care whether the train's tender first or not, but it was a great way to end the trilogy. So the day after that, a lot of things changed. The pandemic was definitely rising, and I actually legitimately thought that was going to be my last road trip of 2020 because I was gearing up to shut back down again. And that's also too around the same time I rebranded the channel as C. Henderson Rail Productions. That was also around the time too that everything really just seemed to happen as once. Now I always talk about how I canceled my fall adventures this year because I wanted to play it cautious, and a few other personal reasons did arise. So what were my fall trips? Well, I'm actually going to lay them out for you. The weekend afterwards, I was supposed to go to the New Hope Railroad and chase the 40. The weekend afterwards, I was going to be going to the Reading and Northern to catch the first public debut of the F units. Me and a friend were supposed to chase that. Then the weekend after that, I had tickets to Cass Rail Heritage Weekend, which I kicked myself in the butt for not going. And the one that I was looking forward to all year was the SO Line 1003 charter. I did not get to attend the last two. I realize how long it's been since 1003 did a charter. I only hope that if things improve this year, that 1003 will do another charter, whether it be this year or next year, because 1003 is one of those engines I've always wanted to see. Cass 2 is definitely on my radar this year, hopefully, but we'll see. So that being said, I went into kind of a hiatus. I know I shot a few trains, I know I shot a video, and I just really pretty much just kind of, don't want to say gave up for a bit, but I just really had no interest to edit any videos. Not really sure whether there would be anything else to shoot this year. Not even sure if there would be Christmas trains. I pretty much went through a month thing where I just played video games and pretty much became a hermit. Which is why I didn't hear the most annoying Christmas song of all time until I went to go chase New Hope. When I finally decided to start editing my videos again, I got back on the track and uploaded the Thomas 475 and the Steam Strikes Back trilogy. I really wanted to go shoot some Christmas trains, and tentatively I was looking at some schedules, and I was originally supposed to go down to Strasburg the Saturday after Thanksgiving, but I canceled because I really didn't feel like getting up early in the morning because I didn't really want to stay in a hotel. So the weekend after that, I had it set that I was going to go chase New Hope. I've always wanted to see 40, and believe it or not, there were two other times beforehand I wanted to go see 40. Now, obviously, in 2019, when she ran her mainline trips, I was out chasing the Iowa Interstate 6988. But there was also announced trips from Lansdale in 2019 in August, and originally I was planning on going to chase them when I decided the last minute not to, and I'm actually kind of glad because 40 really didn't operate in 2019. And I was going to go chase, as I just said, the fall foliage trips, and yet again I canceled because of the state of the world at that point. So I was thinking, I was like, you know what, I've wanted to see the 40 for a while. Main reason being was when 40 returned in 2017, she wore a Reading 6 chime, and that Reading 6 chime and that bell really reminded me of 90. So 40 and 60 had actually been on my list. Only one of them I saw in 2019, and only one of them I saw in 2020. If I literally told you just how interesting the ride down for 40 was, you'd be amazed the chase actually came out. My rental vehicle tire disintegrated. Yes, it disintegrated. I tried going to Lansdale first to catch the famed Conrail unit on, I forget what line it is, but my tire disintegrated. And I literally was like, okay, as soon as the tire gets fixed, I'm going home. Screw this. I'm glad I didn't. When the tire was replaced and everything else, I was pretty much told, oh yeah, that's a full working spare, just don't break it, and all that other fun stuff. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to go chase 40. And I'm glad I did. The day started out really bad. It was raining out, but by the first diesel trip of the day, the rain stopped. And hands down, taking some shots that I wanted, taking some shots that I've seen in other videos, my first time to the New Hope Railroad was really great. And that was actually one of my favorite chases of 2020. And day one was all hazy, which was great because there was a few shots that typically really wouldn't have come out if it wouldn't have been for the hazy lighting. Day two, I also chased the diesel as well too, but day two I had perfect lighting, but at times it was windy. That being said, I got my favorite shots of 40 on day two, like it climbing the grade in Deer Park and it rounding the curve with golden light hour at the end of the day. That golden light hour is one of my top 5 favorite shots I've ever gotten. That chase really, other than one shot, actually went according to plan down to the T, even more than the mountaintop chase of 2019. Yeah, that's saying something. I definitely want to go back to New Hope. It's a beautiful line. I cannot stress that enough. And 40 has quite a bit of stack talk through there because of the way the line was built. The weekend after, I knew I wanted to go see the Wilmington and Western Railroad. I didn't know how long I wanted to chase him because that's not technically in Pennsylvania. We're not really going to talk about that. I decided that one day chase would be good enough. And I also wanted to swing going back to Strasburg because this was the only time in 2020 that Strasburg operated 2 of its main engines in one day. Someone might come back and say, well, they operated Thomas in 90 and 475 and 89. And that's correct, but I'm talking about of their 3 main engines. This was the only time this year 89 and 90 ran together on passenger trains. So, I mean, usually in other years, you would have two trains running in the summer, the half hourly and the hourly, and they'd always meet at Groff's Grove. One of the coolest things about that video was the fact that I actually got to meet at Groff's Grove. That day was interesting. Saturday night was pretty cool. I messed around with nighttime photography, and I really liked the results I got. Sunday, on the other hand, it was so windy and so hazy that the video quality suffered as such. I don't know what I was really expecting, being that open, being this time of year, being as cold as what it was, weather, all that fun stuff. I was hoping for snow, but to close out my year at the Strasbourg Railroad, I thought was really fitting, seeing how pretty much since July, that's pretty much been my only place to shoot at. And one thing that, even though I say 89 is my least favorite engine at Strasbourg, it's definitely kind of grown at me, and I definitely look forward to shooting other videos of it. And up until 2021, which we won't talk about, that was my first real chase of the Strasbourg 89 in her typical Strasbourg colors. And obviously you could say a few weeks ago I chased 89, but the difference between that and that is we're only talking about 2020, we're not talking about 2021 yet. Even though I screwed that up in my Paramar Cat 1225 Memories video in 2019, which I had no idea why I talked about day one of the Laro Charter. I definitely liked the video and I thought it was a cool way to end 2020, but I'm definitely not going to lie when I say just how bad the audio quality was. I mean, it wasn't the worst. I've definitely shot in windier Grand Canyon 29 flashbacks, but I mean, hey, I'm not going to complain. It was fun, and that's pretty much it for talking about Pennsylvania steam memories. In 2021, hopefully I don't spend as much time in Pennsylvania rail fanning. Nothing against the state of PA or not. But I definitely would love to focus on New Hope again. Strasburg, I've definitely got enough for a lifetime. And Reading and Northern, when I shot this, the day I shot this video was the day the 2102 was test fired and had a fire in her grate for the first time in almost 30 years. I believe her service time actually expired a few days after my birth date. So it's almost been 30 years. Anyhow, I'm Christian. I hope you enjoyed this vlog. Up next is the director's cuts. We're going to start off with the Reading and Northern 425, followed by 475 and 90. And if you like it, please like and subscribe. If you have yet to follow us on any other media like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, I suggest you do so. And yeah.